Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 31 of the ES335 build. I'm actually on holiday at the moment, and right now I'm supposed to be out taking a walk in the beautiful English weather, but you might be able to hear from the background noise that it's absolutely chucking it down at the moment. So instead I'm going to spend a bit of time in the workshop and get the fretboard glued onto the neck. Right, time to get all this put together into a single neck unit, and what that will involve is obviously inserting the truss rod and then positioning and gluing the fretboard in position. However, we can't start that yet because we haven't got our side markers in. And to position these, I'm just going to use this little jig that I've developed, and I'll bring you in closer so you can get a better look at that. Now, I personally think getting these side position markers correct is one of the most important parts of your build. And the reason for that is, if you think about it, if your instrument ends up in the hands of someone who plays it a lot, this is probably the bit of the instrument they look at the most. Now, that might have one or two of you scratching your head a little bit, but logically thinking, every time they look down at the neck to see where they're going to position their hand, they'll be looking at the position markers. And if they're not right, they'll be reminded of that every time they play. So to stop them not being right, I've developed this little jig. It's nothing complicated. I'm sure there's a million jigs like it out there in the world. But all it is a little piece of angled aluminium. It's got two holes, and these two holes are set up as they would be at the 12th position on a Gibson type guitar. So 25.5 inch scale length. It's got two little notches in as well. One of them marks the centre, and one of them marks the centre of this hole. And what I'll do is, for all of the single holes, I will mark that notch up on the centre line of that fret spacing and just drill one hole. And when it comes to the 12th position, I'll line it up on that mark and then drill both holes. And then with a bit of luck, all the holes will be nice and evenly spaced, but they will always be the same distance from the back of the fingerboard. So in a central position on that binding in this case. And the beauty of using the little jig is that you don't have to do any complicated kind of working out or anything. All you need to do is find the centre point between the two frets where you want the marker to sit. And that's just as simple as taking a measurement with your calipers, halving it, so I'll just work my way down this board now and get everything marked out. Okay, so that's all of the little lines marked on, and on the 12th fret I've just, I don't know if you can see it there, but I've put two little pencil dots just to remind myself that we need two holes at that position. Okay, so I've just got this set up on the drill press in this little vise, and all I'm going to do is take a tiny little clamp and I've just clamped that in position with the little notch directly on the line that we've just marked, and then just get it drilled out. Like that. Then it's just a matter of moving up to the next one. Clamp it in position and go again. And there we have all the holes drilled. Kind of hard to show it on camera, but they look absolutely spot on. They're very central and they're all in a very straight line, so that's brilliant. So the next thing we need to do, I'm just going to put it in the vise to do this, and I've just got these little black plastic rods for these markers. I was thinking of getting some black mother of pearl markers, but they were proving difficult to get hold of, so I'm just going to go with the plastic instead. I'm sure it'll look absolutely fine. And fitting these is nothing more complicated than just getting a little bit of super glue into the hole, inserting the rod, quick spritz of activator, trim it off. That's a little bit proud, and we'll just scrape that level once we've done them all. And there's the side markers done. I'm really pleased with them. They look absolutely clean as a whistle. Happy days. Okay, so with the dots on, there's nothing left now to stop us from fitting this fingerboard for good. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark where the end of the fingerboard comes on the tenon, because I need some way of locating this so that when it goes on, I'm absolutely 100% certain it's going on in the right place. Now, if you've seen my videos in the past, you will have seen me locate my fretboards by drilling a hole right through the fretboard in one of the fret slots at each end, and then inserting a small wooden peg through there into matching holes in the neck. And that technique works really, really well. And once the fingerboard is glued on, you can then clear out the fret slot again. But obviously, this one's already fretted, so we haven't got that option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of really fine pins. They're tiny, tiny little pins. And I'm going to drive them in at each end of the neck. And then I'll cut those down so they're just proud of the neck. And then I can position my fingerboard as normal on the centre lines, and I can press where those pins are, which will leave a little indentation on the back of the fretboard, which I can then open out a little bit with a drill bit, very fine drill bit, and that will locate then onto those pins in exactly the right position. So the first one I'm going to put actually on the centre line. In the tenon. And then I'm just going to snip that off. And that's left, you can see that or not, that's left a couple of mil sticking out there. And obviously I can't put this one on the centre line because it will interfere with the truss rod. So I'm just positioning it off to the base side a little bit, but I want to keep it fairly close to the centre line. Because the last thing I want to do is to expose the other end of this pin in the carve. I haven't gone in that far, I don't think it's going to be a problem. But better safe than sorry. Okay, and with that done, I'm just lining it up. And just giving some pressure on. And that's pushed into the rosewood quite nicely, and it's left little impressions, one at each end. Okay, so I'm just going to very, very gently open those two holes out ever so slightly. And that sits on beautifully. Now before I go much further, I'm just going to bring the body back into play. I'm going to check that with that fretboard positioned as it is, that everything is going to align properly with the neck pocket. And in particular that the edges of the fretboard align with these points here. And that's absolutely spot on. The neck here has a little bit more material than we need, so that's not flush, but the fretboard is, so that's absolutely spot on. That's what we want. Okay, nothing for it now but to get this truss rod installed. And that's simply just a case of sticking it in position. It's nice and tight, so it shouldn't rattle about too much, which is always nice. If it does rattle about, it's not the end of the world. You just need to put a bit of pressure on the truss rod and that usually holds them in place fine. And next I'm just going to a bit of masking tape over it. Just to keep as much glue out of there as possible. And we'll try and keep this as close as I can to the edge of the route, just so we're not covering up too much glue surface, but there's still absolutely loads of area. To glue this together. And then just a liberal application of Titebond. Now different people recommend all sorts of different glues for sticking fingerboards on with. I've heard people say they use hide glue because it dries much harder, and they think it gives more kind of string vibration through the fretboard and into the neck. I don't know how true that is. I would like to try it out one day, just to see if it does make a noticeable difference. But personally, I've always got good results from using Titebond. Right. And to clamp this down, I'm using my 12-inch radius block, this end. Ideally I'd like something that was the length of the fretboard, so I'm getting even clamping pressure right the way along, but I don't have anything, so this will have to do. But what I have got are some little clamping coils, and they've got cork stuck to them, so what I'm hoping is that that will even the pressure out and allow the block to kind of follow the radius of the fretboard a little bit better. And there we have it. So we'll just let that dry overnight and see how it comes out. Okay, so it's the next morning. There's no reason on earth that the glue shouldn't be good and dried, so we'll just start working our way through, get all these clamps off and see how we've done. And there we are, we're done. Looks to be a nice tight glue joint all the way down. And it looks to be good and straight along the length of the fretboard, so I'll bring you a little bit closer, get some closer in shots, but so far so good. As you can see there, that's gone down really nicely. There's a little bit of a lip along this edge, so it might kind of look like that's not a perfectly flush joint, but if you look at it from the right angle, you probably can't do that with the camera, you'll see that there's no gap at all. That's a really nice tight joint. Okay, but that's only part of the story. We of course need to check that this still fits into the body the way we intended it to. So I'll just set the body up in the vise and we'll have a look at that as well. Okay, and we'll just get this in to the neck pocket. And what we're looking for is the sides of the fretboard lining up nicely with these 2 points here. And I'm really happy with that. That lines up really, really nicely. There's a little bit of meat to take off on this side of the heel, but the fretboard's stepped back away from that anyway, so I've got that material to play with. So yeah, looking really good. Okay, and there we have it, looking very much like a guitar now for the first time, so I think that's looking really nice. But there is a major problem in so much as that's not going to be a very playable neck. So the next step is to get this neck set up and start the carving process. And I've probably said this 1,000 times already, but it's absolutely my favourite part of guitar building. So I'm really looking forward to getting that done. However, that's going to be for the next episode, so I'm going to leave this one here. So as always, thanks a lot for taking the time out to watch this video. Like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.